Hello and welcome to the Naked Expat channel. This is another one of my monologues under the yellow guava tree. I've not been able to do a monologue for about a week because we've had quite a lot of rain. It's still been quite warm, as is the case with most of Asia. Unless you live in, say, the mountain province of Baguio, where it can be sort of 18 degrees and quite inclement in the evening. And sometimes you've got to wear a jumper because it can be a bit chilly. But that's why wealthy people have got second homes in Baguio, because if it gets very, very hot in places like Manila or anywhere else, they can either go to the lakes down by Laguna or they can go up into the mountains where it's considerably cooler. But let's face it, Asia's Asia. All year round it's going to be relatively nice weather as far as temperature is concerned. A lot of people in the UK comment when they have a blisteringly hot few weeks. Wow, I don't need to go to Asia because it's really, really hot here. Yeah, but what about now? It's October. I bet you're freezing your nuts off. So, let's get real. It's generally warm in Asia all year round. It's either going to be hot and wet or hot and dry. And even when it's raining, it's kind of warm rain most of the time. It does get scary with earthquakes and typhoons. They can be really scary. And it can get cold, but very rarely. And you can put up with rain if it's warm. It's when it's cold and the rain cuts through you like 1,000 knives. That's when it's more difficult, but that's very unusual. If it gets very, very hot, you can move up to somewhere like Baguio for a few weeks if you're so inclined. Otherwise, hey, you put up with it. You've got air conditioning, but electricity in the Philippines is really expensive. My electricity bill, this is quite an interesting subject. I'm a solo parent, and myself and my son might be watching a little bit TV. I might be using the computer during the day, but that's low power. My electricity bill is no more than about 2,000 pesos a month. In the summer when it's hot and we're kind of forced to put on some air conditioning in the living room or in one of the bedrooms for a couple of hours, yeah, then sure, my electricity bill might go up to like say 5,000. But that's rare, only for a couple of weeks when it's really hot, around about March, April time. Apart from that, yeah, around about 2,000 peso a month or less sometimes. So I'm quite frugal with electricity. My neighbours, for example, their electricity bill's about 20 to 25,000 pesos a month. So God knows what they're doing. But I know I live, I'm quite considerate when it comes to turning off lights, etc. And I'll try and drum it into my son as well. Yeah, electricity is expensive. But anyhow, I digress. Today I wanted to briefly touch on the fact that yesterday I went for a prostate exam, because I think when you're in your 50s and 60s, it's something that us guys put off. And certainly Premiership football players have gone on record in the UK and done a fantastic job debunking the embarrassment for younger people that are perhaps in their 30s. That look, you got to take your prostate health quite seriously. Don't mess up, guys. Same with like checking your balls for any lumps and stuff. And that's sort of thing that guys don't talk about. Women have got this innate ability to chat with their girlfriends about certain personal things, and us guys, we just bottle it up. And that's why that one of the growing deaths amongst young men, and in their 20s to 30s. Worryingly, it's suicide because of the pressures of life and not having anybody to talk to and depression. And certainly in their 30s, 40s, 50s and onwards, a lot of the issues with men's health come down to prostate problems, which is avoidable, a bit like breast cancer for women. It's avoidable if you catch it early. And so, guys, I know, okay, this is a YouTube channel talking about expats, what am I doing talking about, prostate exams? But guys, it's important, And so it was something that was playing on my mind because, funny enough, I did a video maybe 10 days ago about a new piece of equipment they've got in my gym, which is called a hack squat, which is a bit like getting into a roller coaster, and you go right down really, really low before you push back up through your heels. And so you get a very, very deep squat. So I'm using muscles that perhaps I've not used before. And so I started to notice a little bit of pain or tension down there, sort of underneath my crown jewels. And I'm thinking, actually, hang on a minute, this doesn't, it's a little bit of a dull pain. And okay, dull pain. It's just like women, if they find a lump, don't put it off, go and get it checked out. Or if you have a little feel around with yourself around your crown jewels and you notice something feels a bit different or a bit tender, go and get it checked out, guys. Now, if you're in Asia, one of the great things is, and guys that are British that are watching this will appreciate that, okay, I don't know what the situation is in the UK at the moment. Perhaps if you're concerned about testicular health or prostate health, you can be fast-tracked into the NHS. But normally, you've got to wait for ages to go and see your local GP. You've got to wait for ages before you can get an appointment to go to hospital. And it could be too late. Or at least in Asia, although you've got to pay for it, you can go in there quickly. Now, I wanted to just touch on what I did yesterday. There's a fantastic hospital between Angeles City and Clark. It's an area called Dau, which is spelled D-A-U. And it's sort of a provincial area, but there's a lovely, lovely medical centre there called St. Raphael Hospital, or St. Raphael Medical Centre. And there's a couple of doctors in there that I've seen before that are brilliant. They're just so, their bedside manner, they're very kind and patient, and they got all of the time in the world for you. And especially considering if you're a foreigner, it's unusual because it's a little bit more provincial and it's not smack bang in the middle of Angeles City and Clark where there's a lot of foreigners. They don't get many foreigners, so they kind of treat you a little bit like a VIP. You pay the same price as everybody else. I wanted to touch on the prices here, but it's just lovely. My doctor, my doctor's actually, his first name is Raphael, the same name as the medical centre, but that's just coincidental. And Dr. Raphael is absolutely lovely. He's very, very charming. He's got all the time in the world for you. It's just totally different to the obstinate doctor's attitude, downright quite nasty and privileged sort of attitude that I experienced previously in the UK. I was always scared to go to the doctors in the UK because I thought they were up their own asses. But anyhow, lovely doctor. And of course, with a prostate exam, a bit embarrassing, they diagnose with a digit, as they say. But he was quite apologetic for that. Andrew, we're going to have to check you all out and everything else. And if you're not aware, guys, this is the first time that I'd done it. By the way, everything was fine. And I got all of my results the same day, which is fantastic. Well, obviously, they do a rectal exam and check that there's no lump or swelling or anything else. And he felt that everything was fine. He said, if there was a problem, Andrew, you'd be screaming, because it would hurt if there was some sort of tumour or something there. So he said, that seems to be good. But they do a rectal exam with the digit, with the finger. And then also what's known as a PAS blood test, which helps to highlight any potential indicators for cancer, for prostate cancer. It's a specific blood test for that, a PAS blood test, and an ultrasound, a bit like what ladies have when they're pregnant with the jelly, and then they do the ultrasound down near just around your pubic bone area. And what's entailed is, and the blood test it's a little bit more expensive. It's one of the more expensive blood tests, but in the main still quite manageable. It's 1,950 peso for the PAS blood test, which is fine. Basically, just shy of 2,000 peso for that blood test. And they draw your blood, and the blood test is ready within, it was about 1.5 hours that the results came back. And I was within the normal range, so great, it's fantastic. The other thing you've got to do is the ultrasound, and they say, come prepared with a bottle of water. And my doctor suggested that the team that did the ultrasound in the afternoon, and I was seeing the doctor at 11 a.m, is, Andrew, if you don't mind hanging around and coming back in the afternoon at 3 p.m, the team then are really on the ball. They're more experienced, and I'd rather you had the ultrasound from that team in the afternoon, just as a little tip, which was great, So I went and booked myself in for the afternoon, and I went off to S&R and did a few bits of grocery shopping and stuff. Just to kill time, and had a bit of lunch. I came back at 3 p.m. and had the ultrasound. That was relatively cheap. That was 1,350 peso. And what's entailed is you lie on a bed, and they got the cold jelly on your pubic bone, and they do their ultrasound, and then but before that, about 20 minutes before they do that, they ask you to drink a litre of water. So I went outside and got a litre of water, and I drank the litre of water. And after about 20 minutes, they do the first ultrasound, and then they say, okay, and they've got a little CR, toilet area. They say, go and have a pee-pee, and then come back, and we do it again. So they're obviously doing an ultrasound when you've got a full bladder, and then once you've had a pee-pee, and check to see how much you can get rid of it and whether all of your plumbing is working. And then they've got the 2 ultrasound printouts and scans there, and then a specialist obviously looks at it all and flags up any issues. And the results took about 2 hours. So, well, about an hour and a half. So about 4:30, I had my results, and it was all officially written with the printout and everything. And the specialist had looked at everything, said everything was within normal range, everything was fine. There's no issues whatsoever. So I had my blood test and I had the ultrasound scan, and it was all very, very thorough. And that total was 3,300 peso. Well, that's a lot of peace of mind for that amount of money, because when you're in your late 50s, like I am, or onwards in your 60s, 70s, guys, you should get it checked out like once a year, or once every 2 years at least. It's a good idea for a relatively minimal cost. And if you can go to like a provincial medical centre rather than one of the 5-star glamorous places, it's relatively affordable to do it. So I would recommend. I did it yesterday, and I thought I would mention it just in case you guys are a little bit thinking about it, doing it yourself, and maybe a little bit put off, thinking, oh, is it something that can be done in the Philippines? Is it all okay? Is it a little bit weird? Well, initially it is, but if you go to the thing about the Philippines is generally the attitude of the Philippine people is lovely and warm and very, very friendly. I always say that. The only real issues are generally the behaviour on the roads. If you're in a car or a motorcycle, people just don't give a shit in the Philippines. Well, in the whole of Asia, basically. It's not just the Philippines. It's just, you cross the road, you take your life in your hands. They just don't stop for anybody. There's always road traffic accidents. It's just every single day there must be deaths on the road in Asia. It's terrible. And the other thing, so RTAs, road traffic accidents, and issues with women, with foreigners, with women. That's really the two major dramas: the road, vehicular accidents, motorcycles and cars, and dramas with women. That's the two sort of biggest issues. When you go to a hospital or medical centre in the Philippines, a lot of the tests that you do, I've mentioned the costs involved. Let's take the PAS test that I did, which flags up any issues that could be markers for prostate cancer. And that test was 1,950 peso as an outpatient. So that's the cheapest. But they've got a chart. And that same, so it's just under 2,000. That same test, if you're an inpatient in hospital, is nearly double that. And surprise, surprise, if you're claiming on your insurance to cover that, it's nearly double that. It's like 3,800 instead of 1,950. So that's why people that get admitted to hospital, everything seems to cost a lot more. Even the ultrasound, it was 1,350. That was like nearly 3,000 if you were an inpatient. So they've got different tiers. It's almost a bit like skin tax if you're a foreigner, but you've got outpatient. For exactly the same test, you've got the outpatient price, the inpatient price, and you've got various other tiers, which is generally to do with insurance. So do bear in mind that costs can skyrocket if you're an inpatient as opposed to an outpatient. If you've got health cover, then okay, fine, somebody else is paying for it. It's a bit like if you get your car fixed by your mate down the road in a body shop, it might cost you $1,000. But if it goes through the insurance, it's going to cost you $3,000 because they know they're going to screw the insurance company. Ain't no different here. But one thing that I did find quite surprising was the cost between inpatient and outpatient. But whilst we're on the subject of costs, one thing that I was livid about, it must have been about 9 years ago now in the Philippines, was I've got quite a rare blood group. Not the rarest, but I've got quite a rare blood group, A rhesus negative, A negative. And that's quite rare. Certainly in Asia, it's quite rare. So in an emergency, I'm kind of stuck, It is a rare blood group. It's not common for Asians to have that. So with donors and stuff, it's very rare. Now, I had a couple of communications with people over the years when I was a member of an MC, where, could I go down to Manila? I've been to St. Luke's, I've been to Sacred Heart and other hospitals, Medical City, to donate A negative blood. And in one instance, I saved somebody that was very well known as a foreigner here, had a specialist sneaker, like a sports shoe factory, and was very, very well established here. He was quite elderly. I saved this guy's life because he was A negative, same as me, and there was no blood available, and unless he had my blood and plasma and stuff, then he was basically dead. And I saved this guy's life, and I prolonged his life so that he was able then to get married after being with this lady for like 15 years and finally get married. His dying wish was to get married to his long-standing Filipino girlfriend and to give her basically everything. So I was able to extend his life for that, and that was great. And I got a lot of kudos for that, a lot of backslapping and stuff. But I used to donate my blood anyway. But one thing that you need to be aware of, which I was absolutely livid about, another person close to me needed A negative blood, and I went down and donated it in Sacred Heart Hospital in Angela City, and I donated it. And okay, there's always a fee for maybe them checking for hepatitis A and B and checking for HIV and AIDS to make sure my blood is clean and it's okay, and I haven't got any tattoos or anything that would stop me from giving blood. And so, yeah, everything was fine. I donated however many litres of blood, and they put it through a machine to extract my plasma and stuff. And the cost for checking for HIV and AIDS and all of everything else to make sure my plasma was clean, that's understandable because they got to give a clean product to a patient. But the patient was also charged for my blood and plasma, even though I donated it for free, which I was livid about because I was quite close to this person, and it cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was quite willingly giving blood, A negative blood and plasma over a course of various weeks. And he pulled through and he was okay, but I was livid at the fact that not only was he getting charged for the testing of all the blood, he was getting charged for my blood, even though I was donating it for free, and it was going to him. And I specifically, when I fill out a form, said, is this donation for anybody in particular? Yes, it's for, I won't say his name, but in room so-and-so, and it's for him. Which with my rare blood group, it was pretty obvious it wasn't sort of going to a Filipino. It was going to a foreigner. And you need to be aware of that, because a lot of hospitals will charge you for the blood, not just the testing, even if your friends, buddies, whatever, or somebody like me donates blood to you. Because you've got a rarer blood group, you're going to be charged for my blood, whether I donate it for free or not, on top of the testing of my blood to make sure that it's clean and good to go. So be aware of that. Now, the reason I mention that is when I was at St. Raphael yesterday, Brownie points to St. Raphael. They have got a massive sign in their diagnostic area to say all blood in St. Raphael's is free and will always be free. The only thing we charge patients for is the testing for Hep A, B and HIV and AIDS, etc., and to make sure it's good to go. They do not charge you physically for the donated product. Now, that's fantastic, and Brownie points to St. Raphael. So look out for that if you're in other hospitals, because sure as eggs is eggs, if you're in places like VIP places like St. Luke's or Medical City, they're going to have you by the short and curlies for every single thing that they can. So do be aware of that. Now, the way that it works generally in the Philippines is you get a prescription or you get a diagnosis from your doctor, and then you go around to the various departments and you say, okay, I need to get this ultrasound, I need to get my blood test. So you go there, and then they give you a slip of paper and you take it to billing, to the cashiers, accounts department, you pay for what you need, and then you take it back to the department where they'll take your blood. So I knew that I needed the ultrasound in the afternoon. So the first thing I wanted to do was get the blood test. So I went to the blood testing place and I got my little invoice, which I then took to billing and paid, and was dealt with by a very attractive, charming Filipina lady. Lovely, and had a real kind of sparkle in her eye, and very attractive. And I was quite taken back. I didn't expect it. And I'm talking to you about this because, as I said before, it's all about who you meet, boots on the ground. Forget internet dating and everything else. So I was quite enamoured. And so anyway, I went back and had my blood done. Now, after I had my blood drawn from my blood test, I then went back to the ultrasound place, got my invoice, and went to the billing cashiers again to pay the $1,350 for my ultrasound that I was due in the afternoon to do. And again, I was dealt with this very charming lady, and I just sort of chatting to her. Hi, what's your name? I won't repeat her name. Hi, what's your name? And oh yeah, I'm a solo parent, and just chatting away with her. And oh, look, have you got a pen and a piece of paper? And I wrote down my name and my phone number. Oh, maybe we can catch up and have a coffee date sometime. So, oh, okay, yeah, that'd be nice. And then you think nothing else of it. It's worth a shot. And came home, and within an hour or so, it was, oh, hi, this is so-and-so from Raphael Medical Centre, and oh, nice to meet you today. And yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to meet up for coffee on my off day. And guys, that's how you do it. And she's a lovely lady. Obviously, she's educated. She wouldn't have a job in billing in a medical centre or hospital if she didn't have half a brain. And she was lovely, very well presented, extremely nice. Very attractive and lovely. Well, I'll let you know how it goes, guys. I'm a great advocate of boots on the ground. And that would have been totally out of my comfort zone even up to like 10 years ago. Well, maybe 15 years ago. It took me 5 years in Asia before I really kind of got over this innate shyness that I had about approaching women, because I was just still, scared of being turned down. Well, I don't know, but in business I was very successful, and I didn't give a monkeys about what people thought. It's a case of a dog eat dog. But when it came to interactions with women, no, I had to grow a pair. I'll let you know how that goes. But it's only one. You never know. You might meet somebody else next week. Who knows? Just you keep your options open. But the main thing is, guys, if you come to Asia, anywhere in Asia, or anywhere as an expat, don't be afraid to ask, what's the worst can happen? What's the worst that can happen? And whilst we're on the subject of dating and stuff, anybody that's turned on the TV or read any publications recently will know about the hoo-ha that's gone on, certainly over since yesterday, I think, that Virginia Giuffre's memoir, posthumous book, came out with regards to her being forced to having sex with Prince Andrew when she was 17 years of age. And Prince Andrew, I've got notes here, Prince Andrew was 41. That's 24 years age difference. You know where I'm going to go with this, guys, don't you? Now, okay, there's a vast difference between 17 and 18 when it comes to the court of law in the UK. 17, it's, you're breaking the law. 18 years old, you're going to have sex with a girl. People, I don't think, are that annoyed that Prince Andrew has had sex with somebody who's a minor, as much as they are the massive age difference, irrespective of whether he was married and he's got kids and stuff. And what's been published, I think yesterday or the day before, with regards to him playing a game, as Virginia said in her book, about guessing the age and saying, oh, you're only just a little bit older than my daughters. He demonised as a complete pervert. But I ask you that now, that in the court of law, because there's a vast difference between legal and illegal. And there's a vast difference between 18 is acceptable and 17 you're a paedophile. There's a vast difference in the UK. You can get your provisional driving licence at the age of 17 and you can learn to drive. You pass your test, you can learn to drive. You can drink alcohol from the age of 18. In the US, you've got to be 21. The age of consent, sexual consent, is different in various countries. It can be as low as 13, 14. I don't think there was any age of consent in the Philippines until some years ago. And in Europe, it can be 15, it can be 16, 17, 18. Who knows? I did an article on my website some years ago about the fact that you have to be very, very careful. And I'm not condoning what Prince Andrew does, but at the end of the day, I think most people look at him as a dirty pervert, not because there's not a vast, let's face it, guys, there's not a vast amount of difference mentally or physically between a girl who's 17 and a girl who's 18. One's legal and one's not, of course. I'm not condoning it for his actions at all. But there's not a lot of difference mentally or physically between a girl of 17 and 18. One can get you in trouble, one can't. The biggest issue I think people have got is the vast age difference, 24 years. Now, if you're in your 50s or 60s, let's say you're in your 60s, yeah? And you're dating somebody in their 20s, that's a 30-year age difference. That's more than Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre. So you could argue, well, you're actually worse than he is. Now, all right, you might be dating somebody where she's legal over the age of 18, over the age of majority. Yeah, I get that. I'm not condoning it absolutely for 1 minute. Don't get confused and don't go keyboard warrior and jump down my throat. I'm not condoning it at all. I'm saying about age differences. The age difference between Virginia Giuffre, whether she was peddled or not, and Prince Andrew was 24 years. A lot of you guys The age difference is at least 30 years. It's worse. It's more. And so, okay, well, so as long as she's legal, it's fine. Well, I'll put this one out to you. I'm always not going to shy away from controversy. I'll put this one out to you. If you're in your 60s and you've got a 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old daughter, your daughter brings home a man who is having sexual relationships with somebody your age or older than you, how are you going to feel about it? Now, if you say that's totally fine, as a father, there's something fundamentally wrong with your head. Because I really, you can sit there and justify, if you've got a young girlfriend yourself, you're in your 60s and your Filipina girlfriend is in her 20s, you're going to say, oh, as long as they're happy, I don't mind. Bullshit. Any half-decent father, any father on this planet in his 60s or even 70s, if you were to have a young daughter or granddaughter in her late teens, early 20s, or even mid-20s, and brings home a man your age or older than you, you're going to say that that's acceptable? No, you're not. You're going to hit the roof. And you probably want to knock the living daylights out of him. And everybody would pat you on the back for doing so. Wouldn't they? Yes, they would. So, don't you sit there and justify 30 and 40-year age differences. You see it on YouTube. You've got a foreigner with their Filipina partner, girlfriend, fiance, wife, and they sit there like a little puppet. And half the time they haven't got much to say. Do you see many of them saying much? Do you see many of them like in relationships? You can see the power dynamic. They sit there. Do they say much? Do they talk much? Where's the dialogue? It's always a monologue. The guy asks a question. Yeah. You know, like a little puppet. You see it all the time. They're very, very rarely have they got anything to say proactively. It's always reactively, and it's always a monologue. It's not a dialogue. There's no mental stimulation whatsoever. In a lot of, I don't see it. Point me in a direction if you think otherwise. I know you've got a couple of Filipinos on YouTube that are massively successful. One just talks about sex all the time and how to get a Filipino into bed and how to rock her world and just keeps on going on and on and on and on and on about sex this, sex that, sex that. And she's got hundreds of thousands of viewers. Well, great, fine. If that's what you're here for, well, good luck to you. And then you've got probably the most successful Filipino vlogger, Filipina P, and she's wonderful. At least she talks like as it is. From a Filipina's perspective, but not biased. And I do appreciate that because she kind of views from a foreigner's point of view as well as a Filipina's point of view. But can't get away from the fact that she's a woman. So she's going to have a perspective as a woman. And she's never been an expat, where you guys are. And it's very, very easy to have a over-positive attitude about your own country or countries in Asia without actually living, growing up and saving up and retiring abroad and then talking about your experiences because you are a retired expat. You're doing it. Well, if you've always been in the Philippines and you've lived in the Philippines, you're on the receiving end of the foreigner coming to the Philippines. And yeah, great. You need to give your opinions and your perspective. Absolutely, because it's fascinating. And a lot of say, for example, what the Filipina has to say is really interesting and it's good because it makes you think about choice. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong about everything. But they're not of the same generation or experiences of people coming east. And really, you need to have experiences. You need to listen to the experiences of people coming east as well, certainly from the West. Because as an outsider, it's harder because ultimately, even though the Philippines is a very friendly and welcoming place, probably the most friendliest and welcoming place I've experienced and lived in Asia for sure. And that's why I'm very, very happy to sort of call it home. Absolutely. It beats the other countries in Asia in a lot of respects as far as welcoming and friendliness. Not a lot of everything else, but yeah, very, very welcoming and friendly. But you'll always be a foreigner. And if you think otherwise, you're extremely naive. Wait for your first road accident. Wait to see whose fault it is then. Wait for your first altercation. whether you're in Thailand or Philippines, but no, it's Philippines. Wait for your first disagreement with a Filipino and see how long it is before they call you a bitch and start shouting and screaming. And don't ever get into a fight, because it'll never ever be one-on-one. They'll pile on you and they'll turn against you like a pack of dogs. And if you think otherwise, you're extremely naive. Don't ever have a problem if you live out in the provinces, because you probably won't live the night to tell the tale. You'll just disappear. And I'm not scaremongering. It's a reality. It's a reality. If you will always be a foreigner, just like the boat people coming to England, just like the Mexicans coming up to the States. Whether you're legal or illegal or not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're not American. So you'll always be a foreigner. You're not British, so you'll always be a foreigner. In the Philippines or Thailand or Vietnam, wherever, you'll always be a foreigner. You'll never have the same rights. If you think otherwise, go try and buy land. And that'll pretty much tell you all you need to know. What I'd like you to do, for anybody watching this, if you've got any time, is drop some comments in the section below about what hobbies that you may have in retirement in Asia, if you're in Asia already. Whether it's golf or painting or music or making something. One of my friends is really into, my closest friend is really into sort of aquatics now, and he's got fantastic aquariums. I'll do a video at one point, because I've always keep on threatening him to go over there with my cameras. And he's got about, oh gosh, it must be like 20 fish tanks, all with different fish. He's really got into it, and he's got some tortoise and tortoise or terrapins? I think they're tortoises. Anyway, they're charming as well. And he's had cuttlefish, I think. Anyway, I forget. And he's got 2 pairs of lovebirds now, and he's also done solar panel power on his roof, which he's had to do himself. And he was like tearing his hair out. He's had a couple of attempts, and it's all working fine now. And his hobby is very much into his aquatics, his aquarium. And also into his solar and stuff, and potting around. And he used to actually work for a Jaguar Land Rover, and he's really, really good with his hands. And he's a really good mate to have, because, you know, I got two left hands and 2 left feet when it comes to fixing stuff. I've never really been that way inclined. Is like that very, very handy. I'm very good academically, and with regards to computers, software, and website design, and I've learn't about sort of YouTube and everything else. I'm obviously quite analytical when it comes to investments and fund management, etc., and risk analysis, because that's what I used to do. And we none of us can be jacks of all trades, but I must pop over there. So I'm very, very interested in what other people, how do you fill your time? Because I know it's very easy to see so many foreigners sitting around by lunchtime, they're in the bars drinking and stuff. And what else do people do? I know one American guy, he's into smoking, and he's built his own, it looks like a steam engine. It's a huge, great big smoker, and he smokes all of his own meats and stuff, which is fascinating. And he's a Texan. And I just thought, oh, well, I mean, what do I know? I'm British. And this guy, you know, he's a Texan. What doesn't he know about meat? And he talks so passionately about it. I'm going to ask him again if he would mind me going a video in what he does with smoking and stuff. Hopefully he won't mind. And I've never tasted meat like this before in my life. I thought I knew bacon and like smoked bacon. So this stuff is out of this world, what he does. And he does it as a hobby. And he's really into that. My friend who's got the fish and the lovebirds with his aviary and stuff, he's making his own pizzas as well. You know, it's a little hobby, and he lives very, very modestly. He retired early, has got a very, very tight budget, and he sort of, with the help of a few friends, built a very modest, but it's 3 stories, a very modest house, like a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and like a roof deck and stuff, and it's covered roof deck with his fish and everything up there. And what he's done is fantastic. And it's you don't need to live in a big house. And it's him and his Filipino wife. They're married now, and their son that he's taken on board and sort of adopted. And they're very, very happy. And they live really modestly. I see some people, there's a video now about, you know, you need at least $2,000 a month to live anywhere in Asia. Well, no, you don't. It always winds me up. It's like, You can live in the Philippines on 50,000 pesos a month. How do I know that? Because my friend is doing it. I live on a little bit more than that, but not much more than that. And it's myself and my son. I'm a solo parent and got all of his expenses. But you can live modestly, or it can cost you 5,000 US dollars a month. It's entirely up to you and your lifestyle and what you eat and how you eat and whether you cook yourself, or whether you potter around on a little scooter and stuff, or whether you want to drive an expensive motorcycle or have an expensive car, whether you want to buy international food all the time and have things cooked for you, whether you do your own laundry and your own gardening, you do your own stuff and get off your fat ass, or whether you get somebody to do it for you. And all of these costs add up. If you want air conditioning, can you go and sit out in the garden like I do sometimes? And okay, it's a little bit hot now and the sun's up, but it's still nice. There's not much of a breeze today, but it's doable. Other people I know would probably be sat inside with air conditioning on right now. And what's the time? 11:30 in the morning. So if you're watching this from England, 11:30 in the morning and beautiful sunshine. There's a few little dark clouds out there. We are expecting rain. It's October, so in Pampanga, generally speaking, you get rain about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a couple of hours. So generally speaking, I'll go and walk Spud, my dog, wherever he is. I'll go and walk him for half an hour if I can before the rain. If not, I get wet in the rain. Who cares? It doesn't take long to dry off. Other people, as I said, will be inside with the air conditioning on. Well, if that's what you do, that's what you do. Of course, your electricity bill is going to be a lot more. You can be 20 or 30,000 pesos sometimes. That's why if somebody says to me, oh, I'm thinking about getting a swimming pool. No, don't ever have a swimming pool, because the amount of electricity it costs, it eats up your money, basically, to keep all the pumps and the filtration and everything else going. It's just not worth it. Not if you can go to a local provincial swimming pool or something or other. You know, it's much, and there's no maintenance. Don't bother having any of that stuff yourself. As I said before, the vast majority of expats all around the world, if they own property, they live in properties that are too big. It's an ego thing. This kind of like trend, it's only in its embryonic stage, but this trend, like tiny homes trend, where people start living in smaller homes, they are ideally designed just for sort of one or two people or a small family, make a lot of sense. They really do make a lot of sense. I hope you've enjoyed this monologue. I'm just going to show you my chili plant, because this has come up. Now I take the chili off of this plant every couple of weeks, but just to give you an idea, this is growing out of, hopefully you can see it. I'll turn myself away so you can see it. There we go. As you can see, these are old tree stumps that are made into a slight design, and all in here, there's all of these chilies. Now this plant came from a couple of seeds that I happened to just throw into one of these empty voids with some dirt. And I've discovered that with chilies, you don't regularly water them. You just leave them to their own devices. You sort of treat them mean and keep them keen. And this flowers up. And these chilies are very, very hot. And any guys that have watched my YouTube channel's videos previously will know that I did train as a chef. And so I do like having a little dabble around in the kitchen. And these chilies are wonderful. And you pick them off, they just keep on growing and growing and growing. And it just continues to fruit all year round. And now I know you can, so that's that one. Now I know you can buy chilies in the markets for like next to nothing. But there's something quite rewarding about growing your own. And then down here, the other thing that grows incredibly well here is lemongrass. This is lemongrass down here, all of this, and it's got a obviously beautiful lemony smell to it, and lovely. You don't actually eat lemongrass, you put it in a bit like a bouquet garni, if you know what that is. You tie it up with some other herbs and you stick it in whatever you're cooking, and then when you finish cooking it, you pull it out. You don't normally eat the lemongrass, but you use it in order to accentuate the flavours of other dishes. So anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed today's monologue. I thank you so much if you are subscribed already. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do like and subscribe. It does help my channel. If you'd like to say anything in the comments, please feel free to do so. And I'm really interested in what other expats do to pass the time of day. Until next time, enjoy.